So here we are with a fairly typical Mill Valley awkward hillside, and this is the driveway up. And my experience as I walked up towards the driveway and doing the initial consultation is that this whole area up here just feels way too steep. And so the first thing that I wanted to do was to shave back a bit of the hillside so it wasn't so intimidating. And looking deeper into the situation, there's also a couple of practical elements. The first thing is that periodically the client experiences slides where a chunk of rock such as this will fall out to the driveway, and it puts some risk to cars, creates mud on the driveway, and so that's also will be less common if the slope is tilted back. We're now on hour 6 of the heavy work of the grading, and so we're continuing to strip ivy off the we're stripping ivy off the whole rock face and putting it in a pile. It's quite efficiently done with the machine, which can get the roots. And then we've graded up to about here, taking back the soil that was about here. That puts less pressure on the slope. And we're going to be doing that down here as well. And what we're balancing visually is the not having a vertical surface quite so close, and then we're also not wanting to see too much of a huge cliff all the way up to the house. So the hanging gardens at this stage have all three been hung, and they've now been painted brown. We used a gallon of exterior latex brown paint with a paint sprayer to spray all these in about an hour, and diluted a little bit with paint thinner, so it blends in more with the rocky background. So we're now at a point where the first of our hanging planters is planted, and I'll walk you through a little bit of the process. And so we've got our our fencing at the back, and it's doing its job of stopping rocks from falling down. And then over on the side here we have a 1/2-inch tube, and right beyond that we have a little 1/4-inch valve for each 1/4-inch line. Now the line enters behind the fabric here and runs along the top of each bed, and has water dripping out every 6 inches all the way along. So it just drips with water, which is great when establishing plants. The technique that I want to talk about most, because it's the most unusual, is an integration of what I'd call the hanging vertical wall, a living wall, a vertical wall. And unlike architecture, where having moist, wet plants year-round actually causes mildew, and you have to do all kinds of weatherproofing, so it's very expensive and not really even very good for the environment if you're going to go to all of that effort to upgrade the architecture. In a situation like this, it's cheaper than concrete, way more attractive. This is just the first 2 months. We put this in December. It's now February, and so You know, the plants have already doubled in size, and so by the end of the year, this fabric is going to be completely covered. And I've built this custom with polyester, which is the most sun-resistant of the fabrics, and then painted it to the client's taste, this matte brown. You know, so we can see here again, you know, this gorgeous native rock, and we're going back to the creeping fig, and then going to one final hanging basque, or, you know, living wall here, you know, at the end. And so what this design actually does is the first layer of it behind is galvanized farm fencing in a mesh form, and that gives it its strength, its structure. And then I've got pressure treated 2x4s, you know, at every row. Then comes the polyester fabric stapled with stainless steel staples, and then a layer of drip irrigation runs in every planter. And this is designed to have a 10 to 20 year lifespan. It's the same type of situation as a house plant, where you know, I've made this custom much bigger than the planters that are being prefabricated. For example, the client showed me a sample of a 3-foot by 3-foot prefabricated planter that costs $100 a piece. So this is more cost effective than that, but more importantly, the pockets are much bigger. So the roots, they have this whole row to play in, and about 5 times the cubic feet of soil per plant than than the other planters I've seen on the market. And what that means is that these plants will have a longer life, be more drought tolerant, and it'll be a while before this soil becomes tired and needs to be replaced. So that's the concept, and going back to that galvanized fence, you know, design, the little rocks that are tempted to fall out of the hillside from time to time are going to be blocked by that galvanized fencing and just held in place. So it's going to increase the stability of the hillside. Within the year, this will be completely covered, and it's a drought-tolerant evergreen mix that's also deer-resistant, because the deer can nibble the first 8 feet of it. And, you know, it's just a really nice alternative to the typical gunite or concrete wall. And we were able to do the whole hillside here, you know, here and up, for between $30,000 and $35,000, which you know, was less than the concrete alternative and a lot more attractive. So just something to keep in mind.